But hey, I know you're a busy man. Thanks for coming on the show, and I
No, my
appreciate you coming
pleasure,
on the
man.
show. Yeah,
No, my pleasure, my pleasure. It's for being a little tardy. We're here now.
it's all good. I like the background there.
Appreciate it.
So yeah, I mean, the show's pretty much unscripted. I do very minimal research on who I'm interviewing, that's what makes this interesting, right? Because we can just have a conversation. But yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know a lot of folks know you in the area, but for those that don't live in the area, um, why don't you elaborate on that?
Yeah, Cliff Avril, former NFL athlete, football player, played 10 years in the NFL, played 5 years for the Detroit Lions, 5 years for the Seattle Seahawks. I was a part of probably, arguably, depending on who you talk to, one of the greatest defenses, top three for sure, defenses ever in the NFL with the Legion of Boom. Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champ, all those good things, but also a father of two, married by way of my family are both Haitian immigrants. My mother and my father, both Haitian immigrants, came over in the 80s. I was born in Jacksonville, Florida. My mom's only child, but I have a brother on my dad's side. I don't call him a half brother. That's my brother.
Yeah,
Uh, but grew up in Jacksonville, Florida, and had an interesting upbringing in the sense of being Haitian, but also being American at the same time, kind of battling between the two. When I'm at home, I'm fully Haitian. I'm speaking the language. I'm eating Haitian food. I'm engulfed in the Haitian culture. But whenever I leave out those doors to go to school, I'm American. I speak English.
yeah,
I'm bilingual, obviously, but I speak English. I'm adapting to the American culture as well. So it was a great upbringing in the sense of I got to be able to grab, all the great things from both cultures, and I think that's what allowed me to kind of have
yeah,
the success that I had on the on the field, but also in life. To be honest with you, just being able to adapt and adjust and continue to grow. So I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying this journey that we're on called life.
yeah. So tell me about that growing up. You're Haitian. I'm sure you ran into people, confusing you for African American. Did that have an effect on you, then,
Um, did it
or
have an
walk me
effect?
through that?
No, I wouldn't say it had an effect on me. And I mean, I think every experience is good, right? Good or
Mhm.
bad or whatever we call it. But every experience, there's something to be learned from. I would say that growing up, being Haitian, I used to get in fights with African Americans all the time. Used to get jumped,
Mhm.
used to get in fight, just for the simple fact that, and I chalk it up to people tend to have a problem with things that they don't really understand, people that they don't understand. So yeah, I used to get in fights all the time, but it was interesting because looking back at it, if another culture, white person, Asian person, whoever it may be, would have seen those two kids fighting, they would have just thought they were just two black boys fighting. You know what I mean? But we were fighting because of the quote unquote differences that we had because we were from two different places. But
Interesting.
you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. You know what I mean? From a different lens outside of us two. So that was interesting. But again, all these things I truly believe are the reason why I've been able to kind of adjust and adapt in any space that I go into because I'm not going to say fighting, but I've always been somewhat of an outcast depending on who you're talking to, but I've always been able to adjust as well because of that, because of the different people that I get to meet and all that stuff. But I also would say football played a big reason and role in that as
Right.
well.
Nice. So yeah, I understand you have a storied career, and I believe there's a picture of us actually when you guys came over to AMC to train back in the day,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
then those were the
Yeah.
years, the Seahawks went to the Super Bowl. So I
Hmm.
don't know if you remember that, but
I do
yeah,
actually.
it's been it's been a bit. I remember holding pads for you guys up like these guys punch hard. Could refine the technique a little, but at the end of the day, you guys punch hard. I
Yeah,
figured I
yeah,
only have 3 seconds to survive because they're gonna rest for a minute. But
yeah. No, those are fun
that,
times.
that was a great experience. But walk me through how when you realized you had a gift in the NFL, and continuing on that journey, what kind of discipline did you hold yourself accountable to, or your coaches or whatnot? Just and who in your life said that, hey, you're gonna be somebody, so you gotta stick to this.
You know, it's funny. So my story with football is I didn't start playing football until 10th grade. I was more of a basketball guy. I didn't start playing organized sports really until I got a little bit older, until junior high. I played a little bit of bitty basketball, but football in particular, I didn't start playing until 10th grade. And the only reason I started playing was because all my all my all my teammates were playing, and I had nobody to really hang out with. I had nobody really
Mhm.
to do anything with. So I was like, all right, well, let me try this football thing out. And literally 10th grade, I was like, all right, this is not for me. There's a running joke that football turns a lot of guys into basketball players, and that almost was me. Um, and I was so I just started playing ball, and I was gonna quit after my 10th grade year. And one of my coaches, I guess he caught wind of me saying that or something like that. And he was like, "Hey, look, man, don't put all your eggs in one basket." And I'm like, I didn't necessarily understand exactly what he was saying, but more so than just don't quit. You know what I mean? So I continued to keep playing, and in my 11th grade year, something snapped and clicked where it was like, oh, I started making tackles. I realized I was a little bit bigger than some of the guys. I'm like, oh, all you gotta do is throw your body into people and they fall. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It really was that. In my 11th grade year, I crushed it. I only played in 6 games, and because I ended up breaking my leg, but those 6 games, I was out there flying around, having fun, making tackles, playing fast, all these different things. So school started taking notice of me a little bit. And it's funny because I only had, like I said, 5 games. So a lot of schools would come watch me play basketball, and
Hmm.
they would recruit me as an athlete. Basically, it's like, okay, he's physical enough, but he's also clearly athletic and explosive. So they started recruiting me as an athlete, and so ended up going to Purdue University. Ended up going to Purdue. Played linebacker as a true freshman. Played linebacker my first 2.5 years there, and then I moved to defensive end. Another, I guess, pivot in a sense because I didn't want to change positions. But another
Hmm.
coach was like, "Hey, look, man, you actually might have a chance to keep playing football in the NFL if you move to defensive end, but you probably don't have a shot at linebacker, basically."
Wow.
and I was like, "But I'm good. Like I'm
Uh,
starting. I'm making tackles. I'm making plays." He's like, "Just trust me on this." I fought it for like 3 or 4 weeks, but then like, all right, well, let's try this thing out or whatever. And again, the best decision I ever made. You know what I mean? Just being able to put my hand in the dirt and get after quarterbacks or whatnot. So it was a journey for sure. But over that time span, I would say the biggest thing, man, has been one, be receptive to change.
hmm.
You know what I mean, and be receptive to information. But then two, also don't quit. You know what I mean? You can't quit. Like I could have easily quit after my junior year of playing ball. Could have easily been like, you know what? I don't want to change positions. I'm it's either I'm playing linebacker or I quit type of situation. But I kept moving through it, and kept learning. And I would say that's another thing too is I was always up for the task of learning
Hmm.
something new. Being okay, being in different spaces, but learning and continuing to grow. And I kind of live my life like that now.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, obviously fast forward, you've won a Super Bowl. You're at the second Super Bowl in a row.
Hmm.
And I was watching your interview with KJ all day,
Yeah.
and it was interesting to hear that you didn't know what happened at when you were in the locker room, and everybody
Oh
starts
man.
coming back, throwing their helmets, and you're
Yeah.
like, "What happened?" And you see the screen. I mean, walk me through that thought process, and
Yeah, that was crazy. So if anybody don't know, like Seattle Seahawks, they went to the Super Bowl against Denver and won it in Super Bowl 48. Then we went back to back and went to the Super Bowl and played the Patriots. And I ended up getting hurt in the third quarter. Ended up getting a concussion. So when they take, and I didn't know this was a rule, but when they take you to the locker room during the Super Bowl, you can't come back out. So I had to finish watching the game on TV like everybody else while I'm at the
Hmm.
stadium. And I don't know if most people know this, but there in most broadcasters, even when you're watching football games, there's like a 10-second delay.
Mm.
So it's either 7 to 10 seconds, something along those lines. So while I'm watching the game, I'm watching the play go down, and then I'll hear the crowd go crazy, and then I'll see the play on TV.
Uh,
And while we're marching down the field, I think Jermaine Kearse makes this crazy catch. I hear the crowd go crazy, then I see the play. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. They give I hear the crowd go crazy, then I see Marshawn kind of run the ball to like the 4 or 5 yard line or something like that. And then I hear the crowd just erupt, and it's a little bit louder. But then there's a TV timeout. So like I'm not sure what happened just yet, but before I can see the play, I see some of my teammates running in. One guy throws his helmet, boom, hits the wall. Another guy punches a brick wall, breaks his hand. Like guys are just going crazy in the locker room. I'm like, whoa, wait up. Like I haven't seen the play. Like this isn't matching what I'm thinking is about to happen. Like we're on the 1 yard line, you know what I'm saying? And then I see the play, I'm like, oh wow, we really just lost this. You know what I mean? So I had a completely different vantage point as far as for how that game played out and what everybody's seen, and like me being a part of the game and not being able to like see it. It was a whirlwind, man. It was nuts. It was nuts.
yeah, I bet. And since then, obviously, there's been a lot of conspiracies, and
Yeah.
I have my own conspiracies. I'll reserve that. So, but for this conversation, but I mean, so you're at that point. You're at the pinnacle of the sport, right? And it sounds like the team just, it's not the same anymore. So how did you make that transition, knowing that? So I think shortly after, you pretty much retired, right?
hmm
Because of that
Well, I played another
concussion.
3 seasons.
Another 3 seasons. Okay.
hmm
So, but in that moment, were you already thinking of what the exit was going to be like from that world? Or did you already start to have that in place while you were playing?
Yeah, so the Super Bowl didn't play a role in me starting the process, kind of, you know, when I was going to retire or anything like that. It was more of honestly just how my body started feeling.
Hmm.
Right around year 7, year 8, I'm like, okay, well, I know I don't have another 7 or 8 years left in me. You know what I mean? So now I got to start thinking about
Which is a
what.
pretty long career in the NFL.
No, no doubt, no doubt. I
Yeah,
mean, the
especially for
average is
your
less than
position.
the average is less than 3. So, being able to get to year 7, year 8, I'm still kind of okay. Like, all right, well, it's time to start thinking about the next thing. So I start taking different classes that the NFL provides, whether it be financial courses, whether it be real estate, entrepreneurial, all types of different things. Just trying to figure out what else I like to do because I've been playing football my whole life up until that point, right? I
Hmm.
wasn't sure what else I was passionate about. But one thing I do know I was passionate about was making sure I wasn't going to be a statistic, right? I didn't want to be
Yeah.
the statistic of what everybody hears about athletes and all those different things. So I want to kind of start prepping myself a little bit to see what the next thing might be. And so every off season I would do an internship or I would do take these courses or whatever it may be just to again figure out what the next play was. And but so when it actually happened and my injury was fluke, I actually was still kind of ascending as a player. To be honest with you, I was just coming off a Pro Bowl year. I was playing well, but I got to year 10 and got hurt week 4 of that season, and now it's like, okay, really, what's next?
Hmm.
I tried all the different things that most of us athletes do. We get into the media space. We try to get our own. I had my own radio show, and I was
Mhm.
having fun doing that stuff, but I wasn't really as passionate about it. I was training guys and all that good stuff, but again, I wasn't as passionate about it. And but I was already doing real estate. I was already investing in
Mhm.
real estate when I was playing.
Like what kind
Um,
of single family or single
I
family
was inv-
rentals?
I was investing in funds, which are
Oh,
multifamily funds and
okay.
syndications at first, and then like I said, once I did all the different things, I jumped into like, man, I want to do some of this stuff myself. You know what I mean? I want to kind of control my own destiny a little bit more from that standpoint. So I started getting into multifamily.
Mhm.
We started buying distressed multifamily property. That's what my company does now, and that's actually what I do on a day-to-day basis. Is I buy distressed multifamily properties, we renovate them, and we hold on to them for the cash flow. We hold on to
Mhm.
them for appreciation as well. So, but it all
And you're doing
started.
this all over the U.S.?
Yes, so this is a little bit of everywhere. So
Yeah.
we're in the Midwest, we're in the Southeast, and then we're also here in
Mhm.
Seattle as well.
But why real estate? Like, what was it about real estate that caught your eye and caught your
It's
mind?
funny. So I've been fortunate to meet quite a few wealthy individuals. I'm talking about guys that have sold their startup companies, guys that have created, and sold, tech companies or whatever it may be. But all of them always, like, the common denominator through all of them was they all owned real estate. I never understood it when I was playing because I didn't have the bandwidth to kind of dive deeper into it, but when I retired, I continued to keep meeting with different folks, and all of them own real estate, and just going to find out, it's the cash flow, it's the wealth building, it's all these different components that I started realizing why everybody was investing in it. So that played a big role in it. But then also, honestly, I like being able to control my own time. I knew I wanted to be an
Mhm.
entrepreneur of some sort too, right? So in order to be an entrepreneur, you have to be extremely disciplined. So that's what I use from a football perspective that allows me to be that. But real estate allows me to do that, but it also allows me to create on my own time and build on my own time as well.
Mhm. So what would you say like allowed you to have this mindset of I gotta look into what I'm gonna do after my career, whereas other athletes have trouble with that?
Well, I think it's twofold. I think a lot of athletes have trouble with that because a lot of guys are young, honestly, right? People forget these athletes, these NFL athletes are 22, 23, 24 years old. And, if we all look back at the age of 22 and 23, we all have done some stupid and crazy stuff, right? So,
Right.
and we also thought we were invincible, right? We also thought like these things wouldn't happen to us. I think as an athlete, the gift and the curse of being an athlete is you have to have so much confidence in yourself to even have a chance to have success. But
Hmm.
having so much confidence in yourself also gives you blind spots of understanding that this actually could happen to you, right?
Right.
So I think for athletes, it's usually the case of like when we walk into a locker room for the first time, an NFL locker room, and we have these meetings and they tell you, hey, the average is less than 3 years. And everybody's looking around like, well, that ain't gonna be me. Like you have to have that confidence. But in the same token, you have to also be hearing what they're saying is like the likelihood of you actually having a long career is very slim, right?
Hmm.
So like I've always thought about that. Like I've
Yeah.
always thought about like, okay, the average career is less than 3 years. Like, how do you prepare for that? So,
Hmm.
my first 3 years in the NFL, I lived with my mom because of that average, because I didn't want to be blowing
Hmm.
money, because I was like, I didn't know what was going to be next, but I also know if things didn't shake out the way they did, at least I'm saving some money to prepare me to have a decent starting spot to wherever life is going to take me from that point on. So like I just always processed it that way in a sense of just I'm listening to the message. I don't want that to be me, but if it happens to be me, how do I prepare for that? And
Hmm.
that was always my approach.
That's interesting that you lived with your mom for the first 3 years. I mean, what was that like? And, it sounds like you're really good at listening to good advice or recognizing potentially good advice and then implementing it. Where do you
Yeah,
think that came from? And because a lot of people, you can show them. the pot of gold all day, they probably won't take it, you know?
Hmm. I get that from both my mom and my dad. Always looking past the now, I think is something I've always kind of been somewhat good at, and I think that's why real
Mhm.
estate suits me well too. Is like I'm always thinking of the long game and the
Mhm.
potential of things changing in the long game. So just understanding, and then when you come from humble beginnings too, like my mom and my dad didn't have money, so when I started making a couple of dollars, it's like, okay, well, the name of the game ain't what you make and how much you spend. The name of the game is what you make and how much you keep, right?
Mhm.
So, um, living with my mom made sense, right? And then you also start realizing the amount of money that you're making ain't that much money either. And I'm
Yeah.
talking about relatively speaking, but I never paid taxes a day in my life until I got my first check, and yeah, 50% is gone. You know what
They're
I'm
like,
saying? Like,
who's this IRS? Why are they
yeah,
taking
like
40%?
like IRS, FICA. Who the heck is FICA? Like what are all these different? Yeah, like I don't know any of this stuff. So when I got my first check, I realized it wasn't going to be as big as I thought it was going to be. So at that point, it's like, okay, well, let's put ourselves in the right position to like at least start saving some money instead of going to rent a place out. Let me live with my mom and help her out a little bit. While I'm helping her out, I have a roof over my head as well. So I wasn't too big or too much to like feel like I couldn't go back home and live with my mom, And she, of course, she was loving it too. She was happy that I was there with her. So
That's awesome, man. No,
yeah.
that's pretty awesome. So, going back to your days in Detroit, what was it like? I mean, did they just have a losing culture? Because, in your interview, you talk about how different it was coming from Detroit to Seattle.
Hmm.
I mean, you would think that as an NFL team, everybody has a winning culture. But, you look at Detroit now and, they're the top dog right now, right? So,
That's a winning culture.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's funny because you don't know what a winning culture is until you're a part of it, right?
Uh,
Like you just don't know what that looks like, especially going into the NFL. You get into the NFL. One, you're happy to just be there, right? You're happy to want to be there, but then two, you're trying to find your own way. You're trying to make sure you're not one of the guys that get cut or anything like that, right? So you don't know what a winning culture is. You start looking back at it, I'm like, oh wow, yeah, I see why we were losing. You know what I mean? Because I
mhm.
got a chance to be around a bunch of great players with a winning type of culture. In comparison to like when I was in Detroit, unfortunately, it was just kind of every man for themselves. It
Yeah.
was the attitude towards the game. It wasn't about the game. It was about the money and all these different things. And then when you get into winning culture, you're like, of course you want to get paid. Don't get me wrong, but when you get in a winning culture, it's more team, it's more family oriented. I mean, I'm still very good friends with pretty much all of my teammates that I played with in Seattle. And I'm still good friends with a few of my guys from Detroit, but it's nothing like how it was in Seattle because of the culture, because of the winning, because of what we were able to create. But also, when I got to Seattle, I actually understood what it meant to play for another person instead of playing
Mhm.
for myself, right?
Right.
Playing for Michael Bennett because I know his wife and kids, playing for Richard Sherman because I know his wife and kids, playing for these guys now is deeper than just actually Michael Bennett. It's deeper than just
Yeah.
Cliff Averill. Now it's about, the rest of the family and vice versa. So when one of my guys gets hurt on the field, like I remember I got hurt on the field and I can hear Mike Bennett cussing the ref out because the ref is telling him to back up, but he's cussing the ref out like, "You don't know him, man. Like I know that guy. That's my brother. Like that's my like." Easily could get a fine and easily could get in trouble for all that stuff, but like he didn't care about any of that stuff because I'm his brother. Like,
Mhm.
and so that's what I mean by it was deeper than just football and playing for yourself and the money piece of it. It's like, no, we're a family out here, I think that was the difference between say a winning culture and players in comparison to one that wasn't.
No, I mean it's a bigger why, right? So
Hmm.
so long as you're playing for something bigger than yourself, you act different, and
No doubt.
and you know you give more of yourself. And I think the guys like Tony Robbins or whatnot talk about how giving is the greatest way to build wealth. And naturally, what happened is you guys won Super Bowls because of that giving
Hmm.
and winning culture. Uh,
I
Now, do
I
you
agree.
carry those same mindset to the team you're building for your real estate firm?
1,000%.
Yeah.
Everything I do with my company is everything that I've learned from football,
Mhm.
the pros and the cons of the game, understanding that you're only as strong as your weakest link, understanding that it's a team sport. In football, you can't be the quarterback and the wide receiver. You know what I mean? You can't throw to yourself. So in business,
Mhm.
it's the same concept, right? Like you can't do it all yourself. So you got to surround yourself with the right teammates, surround yourself with the right people that's going to help you get to your goals. It's going to help you get down the field, right? So I implement a lot of that. And the biggest thing, honestly, for me is like discipline. The discipline it takes to have success in the NFL is unreal. And
Mhm.
it took me a while to understand that everyone doesn't have that discipline. Everyone doesn't have that type of grind to do something day in and day in and
Mhm.
day out, and not really know where the finish line is. Right?
Yeah.
Just put one foot behind the other, iron sharper iron. Just continue to keep, but you don't know when you're going to need those traits. You don't know when you're going to get to the finish line. So, like to have the discipline to do that every day is unheard of. So it's the same
Mhm.
concept with how I'm approaching business right now. It's like I'm grinding it out. I'm grinding it out, and real estate in particular, like it's the long game, right? Nothing
Yeah.
happens overnight. So like to put work in every single day, and like you have an idea of where and when you might make some money, but there's a lot of things that are out of your control, right? Like interest rates go up. Now that changes the dynamic of the real estate market.
Right.
All these different things can happen. So how do you pivot? How do you move through these things, right? And it's like getting a turnover on defense. Like your team just threw an interception. Okay, now guess what,
Mhm.
guys? We got to stand up and get the ball back for our guys. It's the same thing with real estate, right? Like I said, interest rates, contractors fall out or whatever it may be. Like you just learn to pivot, but you got to keep
Mhm.
moving forward. One thing about it for certain is if you quit, you can't win.
Right. Or even try. Right. If you don't
Yeah,
even try.
yeah.
Yeah.
So so there's a lot. I mean, the game of football, I think, outside of how violent and it is, I think it's by far one of the best learning tools for life in general. In a sense of, you walk into a locker room. There's black kids, white kids. There's kids that never played with white kids. There's kids that never played with black kids. There's people that have different backgrounds,
Mhm.
beliefs, religion wise, politically, whatever it may be. But on Sundays, we all can come together and fight for one another because we
Mhm.
respect each other. We respect one another and what we bring to the table. And none of that other stuff that we try to make that separates us even matters, right?
Yeah.
And that's how I approach business. Like I don't care about none of this stuff. Can we get together and score touchdowns together? And that's how I
Mm.
operate.
No, that's powerful because that's essentially a microcosm of the world,
That's
right? We have all
exactly.
these cultures, and then can you come together, right?
Yeah. And
And
I'm sorry to cut you off. And society
yeah.
tries to do a really good job of showing us all of our differences and not realizing how much more we actually have in common. But
Mhm.
again, for me and what football has taught me is just again, none of that stuff really matters. Do we have the same belief and goal? And do we have the same work ethic and
Mhm.
determination? If we have those, we can operate together. I don't care about none of that other stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Can we win together? And then we'll go about our separate ways and do whatever else we need to do after that. But can we win together? And that's how I approach business, and that's how I think it will allow me to have more success because that's what worked for me in my previous career.
Nice, nice. So speaking of business, what are your top goals for your business? I mean, what do you envision you're building? Is it
Ooh,
more for the family, or is it more how big can I build this thing I'm working on, or is it some combination of both? And what type of legacy are you looking to leave to your
I, I think I
peers?
think I think it's a little bit of both, right? I think I want to, well, not think. What I want to do is I want to build something that I can give to my kids, right? I think my kids are exceptional athletes. I think they're exceptional kids. They're extremely smart. And I tell my kids all the time, like, you guys play sports not because I expect you guys to make it in sports. It's because of those things I just spoke on, right? Learning how to work with different people from different cultures, from different backgrounds. Learn how to navigate circumstances that might be a little uncomfortable.
Mhm.
So I want to leave them a business that they can operate someday, if they don't make it to the pros, if they don't become the next president or whatever it may be. But they have this to build off of. And then two, one of the main reasons I built my company was for all my other friends and family being able, where we're from, we don't know much about investing, right? Where we're
Mhm.
from, we don't know much about the real estate game. We just know how to live in them, but we don't know who owns this asset, right? Knowing the difference between assets and liabilities and all those types of things. So I wanted to create a company that my friends and family can come to and invest alongside of me. One, because they can trust me, they know I don't need their money. But then two, give
Mhm.
them the exposure to being able to invest and seeing how that works. So their appetite grows to learn more about it so they can make their money work for them. And my ultimate goal and dream in life is I would love for, my little cousins and my sister, my brother and all these folks. Hey man, guys, what you guys got going on next weekend?
Mhm.
Man, nothing. Oh, well, man, let's go to the Bahamas this weekend. And like everybody's like, oh, cool, I'm with it. We're gonna bring the family. Let's do it. And I don't have to foot the bill. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
that would be like that's the I made it moment where like all my friends and
Right.
family are doing well because of a platform that I created to allow them to have
Mhm.
cash flow and to generate wealth through real estate.
Do you find that your family's receptive to the information,
Yes,
like cousins, uncles, and they
yes.
don't just look at you like you're the big guy?
No, I think they're receptive because they know who I am deep down inside. But then also, I think the notion of me not needing their money um,
Mhm.
gives them ease in wanting to invest and learn more about it. But then also, there's something that happens traditionally in most families, and it's not fair or right, especially early on in my career. A lot of people associate finances with wisdom and knowledge, right?
Mhm.
So, as a 22-year-old, you're in the NFL. All your family members, your mom becomes like your sister almost. These people change roles because they equate the money that you're making with wisdom and knowledge, and not realizing that again, you only have 22 years of experience in life, right? Like
Mhm.
having money doesn't mean you're smarter. Having money just gives you opportunity to do either some smart things or some dumb things, for real, right? So early on in my career, I noticed that, and I had to like let people know, like, hey, bro, like
Right.
I still need your guidance as a 23-year-old. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So come bring that around full circle. Now that I am 38 years old, people are more comfortable putting me back in that role because now I have a little
Mhm.
bit more experience, right? So they're more receptive to the information because now I have a bigger, I have more experience through the years. Not 22, now I'm 38. So we're talking about 17 years, right? So like now they're more receptive to the information, and I'm more receptive to the role too. Like I accept it. Like, hey, okay, I do have a little bit more wisdom. I have seen more things. I have been in meetings with different types of people. So like, I do have a little bit more. I have a better starting point than some of my friends and family. So now I want to give them the game back, and they're up for it.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Now, you know what? You've come across so many people, a lot of mentors, a lot of successful people. What would you say is the common denominator aside from real estate? Just from a behavioral perspective and trait that you see in all the successful folks that you've come across with.
Some of the traits and stuff that it's funny again. So when I retired, or even when I was playing, like the CEO of certain companies would want me to come speak to their team. You know what I mean? And I used to always ask myself why. I'm like, you're the CEO of Microsoft. You're the CEO of
Right.
Amazon, whatever it may be. And I'm like, wow, why do they want athletes to come talk to their team? Like, I didn't get it at first because I told you, I thought everybody kind of had that same mindset of
Mhm.
discipline and putting work in and delayed gratification, all these different things. Um, but everybody doesn't. And but what I realize is the CEOs do though. The owners do. They all have that one trait of putting time in and believing in their goals and believing in the passion and chasing it, putting the work in. Like I said, like they have that same trait, and that's like that was something I noticed from the CEO's perspective.
Mhm.
Um, that has been consistent is they have that grind, they have that passion, they have that discipline. Um, so I would say that's one of the things that's been consistent that I've noticed from all these successful people in these different situations is we all have that mindset to go chase that dream and nothing's going to stop it.
Yeah, no, I'm going to agree because I was just at a conference in Paris, and we had the World Cup winner from the women's soccer team talk, and I think the reason athletes speak at these events is because it's a way for people to relate to them. It's
Yep.
tough for the worker bees to go relate to the CEO that's demanding of them
Hmm.
or trying to inspire them. But there's
Hmm.
something about watching sports and seeing the rise, the fall, the emotion. Yeah, it's something that everybody can relate to.
I
So, I
agree.
mean, that's what I think
No,
is the
I
case
agree.
for.
I agree
Yeah.
with that, and it's a relatability too, right? Because a lot of people play sports when they were younger, so they kind of
Mhm.
understand the game and they can put themselves in that situation. But like you said, with the CEO, they don't know what journey that person's been on, and they can't
Yeah.
really relate to it. So I get that.
Yeah. And also, in most business setting, a failure is they missed a comma on a spreadsheet or
Hmm.
the formula is wrong. So it's
Hmm.
not as epic as dropping the ball, catching
Yeah,
catching the pass.
yeah, yeah. No, I get it. I
So,
get it.
now you have the family foundation. That was a nice event, by the way.
Oh, thank
Um, uh, what's driving that foundation, and what made you do one?
you. Man. So I'm big on, again, my background is, both my parents are Haitian immigrants. I used to watch my mom send my grandma. My mom would make $200 every 2 weeks or something like that, and she would send my grandma half of it. You know what I mean? And I used to, look at her and like, I know I just seen this light bill is late, or I know you told me I couldn't get this extra snack because you didn't have the money. Like, why are you sending money back to Haiti? And I'm a kid, so I don't really understand it. Because even when I used to go visit Haiti, like looking back at it, my grandma used to try to make it as comfortable as possible for me. So I didn't realize really what the struggle was when I used to go visit as a kid. But looking back at it, like I said, I used to see my mom sending money, and I used to like, "What are you doing?" And she would look at me and like, "Hey, baby, like you just don't understand like the situation out there, right? We have electricity, we have running water, like they don't have any of that stuff. You know what I mean? So like having that perspective as I got older, it was like, oh, so who am I to be in a position that I'm in to not give back? You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
there's always, always, always room to give back. And no matter how bad you might feel like your situation is, um, it could be worse, And I give this example all the time. It's not even politically correct per se, but like you can think of whatever hood and whatever projects in America. I'm talking about, out there in New Jersey, out there in New York, Chicago, LA, all these different projects, New Orleans, like some of the worst projects you can think of. Those projects would be like mansions to people that are in Haiti. See what I'm
Wow.
saying? So like everything's perspective. Everything is just understanding really what the situation is. And so me seeing that is like again, understanding like, man, no matter how bad things might seem, they sure could be worse. And for me to be in a position to be able to give back, me in a position that I'm in, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I? Like I feel like human beings are here to help one another, right? We're here to serve one another.
100%.
So so that's one of the main reasons why I created the foundation is I wanted to find a way to give back. And diabetes is how it started. Juvenile diabetes is how it started because in the Haitian community, diabetes is very prevalent, based on the diet, based on lack of exercising, different things like that. So it started there, and then it kind of morphed into like serving other communities, building schools in Haiti, health clinics in Haiti, all these different things. But again, I think I'm truly one of. I think football, as great as it was just a stepping stone for me to be able to do and make a bigger impact in other people's lives.
No, that's amazing. So, what would you say, to sum it all up, what are your big five recommendations for guys that are looking for inspiration, whether be it in sports or business? I mean, what are five things that you could share for somebody that will help them in 2025?
I would say,
Or starting today as well,
yeah, yeah,
You
no,
don't
no.
have to wait for a year.
Now you can start tomorrow. That's number one. Start tomorrow. Um, I would say that you can't expect anybody to believe in your dreams more than you. They're your dreams, right? You can't expect. So if you bring something to somebody and they tell you, that sounds crazy, you can't expect anybody to believe in it more than you. That's first and foremost. Whatever that dream is, whatever that passion is, you're going to have to fight for it. You're gonna have to go get it. And that means it's gonna be you're gonna have to make sacrifices. That means it's gonna be some sleepless nights. That means it's gonna be some days where you don't see your friends, some days where you don't go party, don't go hang out. It's gonna like you have to be willing to take it there. They have a quote basically says, you gotta grind it out for 3 to 5 years, like most people won't, so you can live the rest of your life like most people won't. You know what I mean? So like, um, you got to put that work in, and again, the hardest thing to do is to put work in and day in and day out, and not see the finish line. You know what I mean? But one thing you
Yeah.
will know is over time, you'll start to see a speck of something. You'll start to see something. You might not see how far it is, but you'll start to see something and you'll start to see it pay off. You know what I mean? So I would say that's one thing. I would say be okay with delayed gratification. I think we live in a microwave society now where we think things are supposed to happen right
Oh
now,
yeah.
because of social media, because even like the athlete that you see on Sundays, like you don't know, like that guy's been training for that one Sunday. He's been training since May. It's freaking December. You know what I'm saying? Like he's been
Yeah.
training. He puts work in from Monday to Saturday every single day, but you only see the finished product, right? So it's understanding that you have to be okay with delayed gratification. What's one more thing? And then the last thing I would say is, um, uh, whatever it is that you're going after, make sure you're passionate about it.
Hmm.
And the reason I say passion is because if you're just chasing the money, if you're just chasing the money, you'll be okay to quit at some point. But if you're passionate about it, those hard days, those days you feel like quitting, your passion is what's going to keep you in the race. You can't win if you're not in the race, right? So if you have to, I feel like the passion is what's going to keep you in the race. No matter you start cramping up, you start getting tired, all these different analogies that I could use. Um, the passion is what's going to keep you in the race. That's going to keep you going when those days get hard, when things get hard, and you seem like you can't go anymore.
That's powerful, man. Well, hey, thanks for coming on the
Appreciate
show.
it, bro.
I know you got a lot of deals to go to, so I appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you in the gym. Maybe one day I'll play
Yeah.
pickleball.
Hey, man. Yeah, you got to come out there, man. You got to come out there. No, man. I appreciate you having me out here on this show, man. It's always fun to be able to talk shop, just mindset in general. Keep up the great work, and we'll tap in soon.
All right. Thanks a lot. Have a great holiday. Thank you for tuning into the show. If you found value in what our guests shared and what we share on the show, please feel free to share with your friends and family. We'd love to see you back here. Thank you again. And you can find us on pretty much every social media channel, YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify as well. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Step into the unscripted arena.